My husband and I adopted our daughter through the foster care system, so we have a history with them. And we know there's a need for that, but they're also overloaded. As you know, in our community, there are a lot of children that end up in that. And if we can help a family not have to go there, that's relieving that system. And so we want to be able to help. And we've been able to help this family in stressful situation to have a break and take care of their daughter. Safe Families offers a way to help families before abuse and neglect can cause the state to step in. And as the faith community steps in to be a neighbor helping neighbor, the stronger our community can be. So for some of us in a family of faith, we can't quite understand all the stresses and crises that can lead to abuse and neglect. And I was reminded of a sermon that our pastor had done, and he had talked about that there had been some numbers assigned to life events. And so I went looking for it, and in the book, What is Psychology? The Essentials, by Ellen E. Pastorino and Susan M. Doyle Portillo, they explain Holmes and Ray's social readjustment rating scale. And Holmes and Ray came up with a rating system for life events and gave them a unit score. So the higher the score, the more stressful the life event. And a life event is a change in one's life, whether it's good or bad, that requires readjustment. And they say the issue is when more than one of these is experienced in a year, that can affect a person. So there are, of course, other considerations, such as was the event planned or desirable. For instance, getting married gets a score of 50 and an illness is 53. Add these up, and if you have a score between 0 and 150, there's no significant problems. You get to 151 to 199, it's considered a mild crisis. 200 to 299, you have a moderate crisis. 300 plus, you've got a major crisis. And as I began to think of what our bio mom was going through, and here, this is what I discovered. She's had a change in residency, was experiencing family conflict and a lifestyle change. She was pregnant with financial stress, suffering from a chronic illness, and during one of our hostings was incarcerated. So you have a score of 273. When her baby arrives, that bumps her score up to 312. And we will probably end up being hosting at that time, which will be in the future. So from personal experience, I've seen that the more stress there is in one's life, the more apt one is to lash out at the loved ones around them. And that's an opportunity for abuse. So most of us, we have a support system of family, friends, a church community that is there to help us when we need the help. But many of these families who seek safe families don't have that support system. So as a host family, we have needed the support of our family and church community during our times of hosting, and we couldn't do it on our own. We have been lucky to have so many people support and help us out. So as I tell my story, you will see that it takes many people to support a host family. My husband is the one who answered the call to host this 6-year-old girl who, as I tell my story, I'll call Julie. We started hosting Julie in December, and December is Christmas, and that is also a life event that has a score. So you add that into the things that were happening in this mom's life. So as you looked, Bio Mom had many of these life events that have caused her stress level to rise and needed some help. So this is a single mom of a 6-year-old and an 18-month-old, homeless, and has a high-risk pregnancy. The family they were staying with at the time had issues with the children's behavior. Julie has a tendency for tantrums, and I have been able to experience a couple of those. And so in our first hosting, we needed a pair of boots for Julie to wear for when we went to cut down our Christmas tree. She came with just one pair of shoes, and we didn't want to ruin those out in the mud. So a friend at church provided a pair for us to borrow. Our next need was met by my mom. My daughter's bus arrives about the same time that I needed to be at Julie's school to pick her up. And so my mom came each day to meet my daughter's bus on the days that my husband was not available. And she did this during each of our hostings. My parents also provided babysitting, especially in that first hosting. We had a Christmas party to go to, and they were able to watch both girls. Our next hosting was for 6 days at the beginning of January. We had Julie and her 18-month-old brother. The family had to leave the home that they were staying at and were now at a shelter. It has been a while since I had an 18-month-old in my home, and those 6 days seemed like a lot longer to me. Again, my mom was able to help out. I needed to take my daughter to the doctor, and she came along to help me with the 18-month-old in that whole process. At the last day that I had the kids, I needed to be at a meeting that I couldn't take the 18-month-old with me. And so a Safe Family staff member was able to find Annie to watch him until he would be taken back to his mom. Annie was unable to provide transportation, so Safe Families was able to find a family friend to come to my house and pick the boy up and take him to her house. And then he, later in the day, went to her house and returned the little boy to his mom. About a week later, we were contacted to host Julie again. Bio Mom was getting a room to rent, and she needed to look for a job in childcare. Later, the housing got extended because there was a rodent problem where Julie would be sleeping. Another life event that adds a little more stress. And like I said before, they had mentioned that the life events, if they happened in a year, could add this stress. Think about now, she's had most of this in a few months' time. I can't imagine being there. So we had Julie for 3 weeks. One of the weekends we had planned to go to Washington to visit family and celebrate my birthday. The bio mom had agreed to take her for that day, but the night before, another crisis emerged. Mom was detained for the weekend. The father of the little brother, he had called me and talked to me, and he's like, I would love to take her, but I can't take her. I can't guarantee that I can keep both of them safe. I can't handle her tantrums when she has them. And of course, I don't want to send her back into that either. So we changed our plans that my husband would take my daughter up to see family and I would stay home with her. I had a baby shower with church family that night, and I was able to share kind of what was happening. Where did I get to? And my friend Susan was there, and she was like, I'd be more than willing to take her for the day, but I have other plans in the morning. But you and her can come over, and the kids can play, and we can take a walk if it's nice out. And I was like, okay, that would just be a wonderful thing to have a little bit of break for us, for Julie and I to have some time with someone else. And as the evening went on, they decided they were praying for the mom to be, and that prayer just hit me. It had touched me that I need to be open, to be willing to ask for help. They were praying for this new mom that we as a church are there to help. And I'm like, that's what they're here for me too. And so I got a little teary-eyed, and Susan, when the prayer was done, was like, are you okay? And I actually was honest and said, no, I'm not. My expectations had changed. This was a little tough for me. So she just offered her shoulder to cry on, which was the greatest gift you could give me at that point, which was wonderful. And then after a little while, towards the end, our pastor's wife, Michelle, she's looking on her, she's like, I'm checking my calendar. I think we have the day open. I think we can take her for the day. I cannot tell you what a gift that was. It was a beautiful gift. And the wonderful thing is that one of her daughters and Julie had been at church and in our church's adventure club together. So they already knew each other. So that made it a wonderful, wonderful gift to us. And as I was leaving, my husband texted me that Julie was talking about the next day and getting to see her mom. How do you explain to a 6-year-old, and you don't want to explain to her that her mom is in jail for the weekend? So I asked 2 of the gals there, 2 older, wonderful mom figures, if they could pray for me. Actually, I don't think I asked for prayer. I asked if they could pray for me to have the words to tell Julie and explain it in a way that would not add stress to the situation for her. And they offered to pray for me right then and there. So we prayed, and then when we were done, Tarika gave me the wonderful thing to say. She said, just tell her that she's been invited to go spend the day with a friend. And I was like, there you go. That's all it had, that mom's plans have changed, and that's all it has to be. And those were the best words I could have gotten from someone to share. I left that evening feeling like a load had been lifted off. So right before spring break, we were contacted to host Julie again for 2 weeks. We were going out of town, so we were unable to do that, but we were able to do 4 days. Mom needed help because she was having some health issues. Her chronic illness had kicked in. I picked her up and realized later that Julie came with only 1 pair of pants, the pants she was wearing. And that was one thing I didn't have. She came with some other things that we're short on, but I had those of my daughters to share. Pants, though, do not. My daughter is 9. This little girl is 6 and wears size 5T, and she's very thin. So there was no way my daughter's pants were going to fit her. So I put out the call, and a friend was able to offer us some pairs of pants to have, and she's offering to let us hold on to them for the future use. I also asked for shoes to borrow, but we were able to make do with some of my daughter's old shoes. But a week and a half later, we had her again. We thought we were going to have her for 2 weeks. We ended up only having her for 4 days. But with knowing that, I had some other friends add to bring us some more pants and shorts and socks to have on hand. So we have a little stash now for the next time she comes. Even a couple of people had offered to buy her some shoes to have. We are so blessed to have such a loving and giving church family. It has been a blessing to be able to answer Julie's questions about what she has heard at church, to hear her pray for her mom, and see her make connections with her teachers at church. Through all of these hostings, though, it has been difficult for my daughter, who is intellectually disabled, to fully understand sharing her room and sharing her toys with Julie. So, my daughter would just go along with whatever Julie wanted to do to play with, and she would do that with my nieces also. So at the beginning of the 3-week stay that we had, my daughter was crying. She didn't want her to come again, and I said, this is your chance to learn your voice, that you have an opinion, that you can say no, and you can do what you want to do. And at the end of those 3 weeks, my daughter was able to say, no, I don't want to do that, when Julie came and said, let's do this. And then to see it carried over with my nieces when we visited at spring break, for her to say, no, I don't want to do that, has been a blessing to us. A verse that I have kept close at hand is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Hosting is not easy. I needed the prayers of others to bring his strength and wisdom to my aid. I have had to learn to ask for help, and it is okay to let others to serve in the way God is asking them to do. God uses what we have to offer, and he gives us what we need to serve him when we are obedient. That is what I appreciate about the Safe Families model of having respite care providers, prayer group, resource providers for host families. It took all of these wonderful servants of God and others that I don't even know about to make a difference in this family's life. Thank you.